everybody. So welcome now to my March wrap up. Now I'm going to go through the books I read in the month of March. Now I don't have most of them on me. In fact, I only have one on me because they were all library books except for one. So I'm going to start. I read 6 books this month. Not very many. You'll see why. And I'm just going to go in the order I read them. So the first book I finished this month, I did make a blog about it. I was quite honest in it. It's The Cyborg Tinker by LaTorre or I. Lee. There has been a lot of controversy about her, which I'm not totally going to get into. But basically, I gave this 1 star. It is one of the worst books I've ever read. It is absolutely unacceptable for someone who claims to teach people how to write something as vacuous and just bad as that. So there was a point where it had 3.18 stars on Goodreads, and overnight that grew to about 3.3. So she had just an influx of 5-star reviews come in. Now I had a short back and forth conversation with Meg because I just don't find this acceptable. She made a comment saying, you know, these are not fake. I did not do this. If any of my fans are trying to support me by making these fake accounts, don't. Turns out, Meg does not go on Goodreads due to her mental health. So she actually had not seen these reviews according to what she had said. I think she reacted extremely inappropriately to these allegations. I don't think she should have said anything. She didn't even look. I guess she just heard the rumor. Now she says she's contacted Goodreads to make it all right. No, it's not all right. It's never going to be all right. Just the fact that you thought you were good enough to self-publish this book, Meg, means you're wrong. Okay, that was 1 star. So the second book I finished was In a Holidaze by, by Christina Lauren, writing romance duo. Now this could have been higher, but unfortunately, this is just one of those books that is gonna remind people who don't read romance why they don't read romance. It was absolutely hilarious through the start about this woman who's 26 years old, and she's like spending the Christmas holiday with family friends. They decide to sell their cabin, which was like the stability in the universe. And she gets trapped in this like Groundhog Day loop of reliving the vacation over and over again. And so she thinks it's because she needs to find like her one true love who she's known since she was a child. This one true love is a total douchebag. And it was just hilarious intentionally. And then right at the halfway point, it just moved over into unintentionally hilarious. Very well written, very structured story, but there were some things like the main character is 26 and hates her job, so she just randomly decides to quit with no thought at all as to health insurance. And we never actually do get an answer of what's going on with the Groundhog Day thing, so she just never gets out of that time loop and life continues on. I mean, she gets out of the time loop, but like the time loop ends, but we don't know why it happened to begin with. So that was 1 star. And the next book I finished was actually the best book I read this month. It is The Fiery Cross by Diana Gabaldon. It's the 5th book in the Outlander series. Yes, I do have a splint on my wrist. It's because I heard it. Now, it's the 5th book in the Outlander series, so I'm not going to give away spoilers. But I felt this one and book number 2, Dragonfly and Amber, are tied for the best, but maybe Dragonfly and Amber edges it out just a little bit. Jamie Fraser, insufferable as ever, but the character Marcelly, I felt, really came into her own during this book. This book is 504,000 words. It's the longest book I've ever read. And to give you perspective into how long a book that is, probably one of the more famous, really massive tomes that a good number of people have read is Pillars of the Earth by Ken Follett. Don't get me started on can follow. That is 410,000 words. So The Fiery Cross by Diana Gabaldon is almost 100,000 words longer. And 100,000 words is about 300 pages, to put it in like reader perspective. So it's a very long book. And the sixth book I have right here from the library is 2,000 words longer. A Breath of Snow and Ashes. I think The Fiery Cross, to be exact, was 504,000. This is 506,000. So this will be the longest book I've ever read. I will try to get to it in April. I'm going to make tomorrow or the next day my April TBR, because I am still working on one book, Burial Rites, which I don't think I'm going to finish tonight. I'll probably finish it tomorrow. So I will do my April TBR tomorrow or the next day, whenever I finish the book I started yesterday. And so the next book I read after The Fiery Cross was The Handmaid's Tale, and I did make a vlog for this. The reason I read this one is because the YouTuber Jack Edwards, this is his favorite book, and I'm working on a series where I read all the booktubers that I really like. I read all their favorite books. I gave this one solid 4 stars based on, oh, and if you're wondering, I'm looking at my Goodreads on my iPad. Based on pure writing, one of the best I've ever read. Margaret Atwood, this is going to be a classic, no doubt about it. Kids are going to be reading this in school. It's pretty high level. I put it, like, if you're in 12th grade and maybe AP, it's definitely college level. So I don't think high schoolers are going to get to read it, but it'll be right in college classes for sure coming up. But I gave it 4 instead of 5, just based purely on enjoyment. It was kind of hard to read. It was really intense, which I don't mind. But just simply on enjoyment factor, it was all right. Sorry, you can hear my guinea pigs chewing their toys. So the second to last book I read in March is The Four Winds by Kristin and Hanna. Now you can see I have The Nightingale right up there. I haven't read that yet. I found that one at a Goodwill. I myself like to write historical fiction. Kristin Hanna and Susan Meisner are probably the 2 biggest females in historical fiction right now. And The Four Winds, I only got 3 stars from it. It's about the Dust Bowl, the big migration west to California. It all felt really contrived, and I just wasn't impressed for someone as huge as Kristin Hanna. But I'm still gonna give The Nightingale a chance. But like I said in my video that I made, I'll put it like in the iCard or something, where I went and got that thrifted at a Goodwill. I'm very burnt out on World War II, especially in the European context writings. I don't find that they're usually very original. They all kind of feel the same. So that's the second to last book I read. 3 stars. Okay, not too impressed. But I was really curious because my grandparents were actually children during that time. And it started in Texas. It actually started in the Panhandle. My grandparents are from Central Texas, both sides. And it takes place, or it starts out in this town called Dalhart. Dalhart is a real town, and I have driven through it. And for me to explain what it's like in Dalhart, imagine just the rankest, smelliest poop you've ever taken. Put that on the back of a mule. Let it ruminate for 2 weeks. And imagine the smell that comes from that. And that is what it smells like in Dalhart. There's nothing like it. And then the last book I have completed, I don't need to look at my iPad, but the last book I had completed is The Bookwoman of Troublesome Creek, about the pack horse librarians in Kentucky. It takes place in the 30s. I think it was 1936 throughout most of the book. And it's based on, you may have heard of it if you're a history buff, the blue people of Kentucky who had a condition where their skin did not get, their blood didn't get enough oxygen. So, you look at veins, I'm very pale, so you can probably see the veins in my arms. they're blue because they haven't reached the surface of the oxygen, but my skin is white because my blood hasn't knocked the oxygen. Well, these people didn't, so their skin would have been the color of veins. So if you can imagine looking at someone, here's a good shot. It's kind of gross, but they'd be this color or worse, probably more like that color. So just imagine walking around like that. And what it didn't occur to me, some of the stuff, like she had to use, the main character is one of those blue people, she had to use like the colored bathrooms that the black people would use. And they didn't realize it was an ailment. They thought it was just like the color of her skin. And it was really interesting because I guess knowing now, like, I know that that's an ailment, so I wouldn't expect people to treat them back then as terribly as they would have treated black people, but I mean, they treated it worse. So that was fairly interesting. It had a really just kind of quirky cast of old Kentucky people, cast of characters, good character work, but the story itself was really predictable. I gave this 2 stars. I'm not going to be like, don't read this, it's not worth your time. But for me personally, just the writing itself, not that great. Great character work. Loved the characters. They were awesome. But the actual plot of the novel was very predictable. So that's what I read in March. 6 books. Only 6 because the Fiery Cross was so huge. But great job. Great Outlander book. Probably my second favorite next to Dragonfly and Amber, which is the second. And I had a good reading month. I had a lot of fun. And so I will be here tomorrow or the next day with my April TBR. So keep reading, keep writing, keep loving words, and I will see you in a few days.